Hi friends, welcome to Rec at Home, brought to you by the Community Recreation Division of Arlington County Parks and Recreation. Today what we're going to do is we're going to make a duck craft using a toilet paper tube and a metal lid from, say, a jar of pickles or a jar of cherries, something like that. Before we get started, make sure you gather all your supplies, print out the template. Hopefully you've downloaded and printed that out already. Then we'll get started. I want to go over a couple of quick things. Just try your best. This is meant to be fun. Enjoy the activity. If you are working with other people, be encouraging. If you're working with other people, share. Be careful of your volume. I know a lot of us will probably be doing this at home, so make sure you choose a safe space where you're out of the way of people doing other things, but you're also in a space that's conducive to doing a good job. And you're going to be using scissors, so make sure you're careful with those as well. So let's get started. All right, so let's make sure we've got everything we need. We've got our scissors and our tape. We've got our duck template, hopefully that you've downloaded and printed out. We've got a toilet paper roll. We've got some crayons. You don't need this many crayons. We just happen to have ours in a big bin. And of course, your metal lid. This is from a jar of pickles, but it could be from other things like a jar of cherries. Pretty much any metal, flat, not very deep lid from a glass jar would be a really good use for this. You could probably even use, now that I think about it, even a plastic lid from, say, mayo or salad dressing or something like that. So we've got all of our things together. What I would recommend doing first is coloring your template, because once we cut it and stick it on, it might be much more difficult. So I have pre-colored one of my templates. Now you might be thinking, Mr. Ken, that's a little bit messy. Well, I know I'm going to cut along those lines, so it won't look messy once I've cut, and then that made me a lot more relaxed about coloring because I'm not very good at staying in the lines. So in my next step, I am going to cut out these parts and get them ready to tape onto the toilet paper tube. Now, you don't have to color this template. If you want to just color directly onto the toilet paper tube, you're welcome to do that as well. They tend to be brown, and sometimes color doesn't show up as well. They also sometimes are hard to get all the paper or adhesive off. And so I wanted to include this rectangle here, which should fit most toilet paper tubes. And then that would just be an easier way to color and decorate it. So I noticed as I was cutting that I made a mistake in how I colored my duck, because I wanted this red to be near the head, but I colored the wrong orientation and it would actually end up being on the back or the belly. So what I did was I went and colored the back. So now I have the coloration the way I want on my tube. So if you make any mistakes, you can always just turn this over. But I want to point out that before you color it, the long end will be the head and the tail of the duck, if that helps you to plan it. And if you need some inspiration for how to color your duck, I'm going to give you some ideas after we finish the craft on the video, so you could watch the whole video and then get some ideas and then come back and restart it here. And again, you can make a purple and green and blue duck because the world needs more of those. I think that would be fantastic. But if you want to make your duck look like some ducks that actually exist, I'm going to give you a couple of pointers in that later on. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to take our tube covering here and we're going to wrap it around the tube and we're going to tape it to it. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tape it to the tube first and then tape it again when I pull it over. Now I might want to tape the ends as well, but first we're going to make the tail of the duck, which is my favorite part. And you're going to take your fingers on either end of the circle in the back. And I'm going to make sure that this is the bottom, right here where the seam is. So I'm going to make sure that I go 90 degrees or 1/4 of the way around, kind of like going from 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Put my fingers at 3 and 9 o'clock and just pinch. Now I've got a little ducktail for my duck. And I'm actually going to take a piece of tape and put over that to keep that in place. I got my ducktail. And then I'm going to put another piece of tape right here on that end to keep that all together. So I'm almost finished with my duck here. Next, we're going to take the head. And if you didn't do this already, the line that is right here is for clipping. I'm going to clip that right up to the line. And that's going to give you 2 tabs. And we're going to use those 2 tabs to secure our duck to our tube, like so. Right here. So I'll take one piece of tape over this tab, make sure I've got my duck where I want it to be. My duck head. I hope the tape sticks to the crayon. Maybe I've found a way to change how we do this, but I think this will be okay. There we go. And now I have my duck, but my duck will not float. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take the duck and we are gonna affix it to our metal lid. Now, this lid is not as wide as the duck tube, and that's perfectly okay. If you get a bigger lid where your tube duck fits all the way into the lid, that's even better. But what you can do is simply take a big piece of tape, make yourself a really big loop, like so. Sticky tape is always fun to work with. And stick it on the bottom of the tube like so, and then just let the tape still touch there. Okay, so there's space between there, but the duck is on the lid, and now you have a floaty duck. Well, what do we do with our floaty duck? What do we do with our floaty duck? We give our floaty duck somewhere to swim. I've used a small glass dish and gave our floaty duck some friends, a tadpole and a frog, and a little bit of greenery in there. And now we have a little duck pond. I used a glass dish because I wanted to make sure you could see that it had water in it and it was a little easier to view. I don't know that your big person would want you playing with a glass dish. So before you get any kind of dish, make sure it's something that you're okay to use. A plastic wash basin or a tub could be fine, a casserole dish, anything that you can put in just a little bit of water. It doesn't have to be really deep. And I'm gonna point something else out because I just realized that as my duck started to turn, oh, he's got no color on the other side of his head. So maybe remember to color both sides of the head when you do it. Now, I modeled my duck after a mallard, and I'm going to take a second here and suggest some places of inspiration for coloring your duck. So as I mentioned earlier, you can make your duck any colors that you want, or if you want to try to base it off some local ducks or some real ducks you'll find around here, there's a lot of resources available to you. You can check out eBird, E-B-I-R-D, or All About Birds. Both of those are really good websites, and they have lots of information about birds around here, but birds all across North America as well. And I will make sure that those show up on the screen. Then I would also recommend looking at some field guides, perhaps the Peterson Field Guide to Birds of Eastern North America, or the Sibley Guide to Birds. This is my favorite. They both have lots of beautiful color illustrations and offering lots of ducks to look at. This is the mallard, which is what I based mine off of. Green's my favorite color, and I like the big green head of the mallard. But if you don't have a lot of books, or if the website's just not doing it for you, if you want to get out and see some ducks, I can recommend a few places you could, well, come on, follow me. This is one of those places. This is Roach's Run Waterfowl Sanctuary. It's opposite Gravelly Point on the GW Parkway. You can only get it driving south. Sometimes it's a really good place for ducks. We don't have a lot behind me now, but it's a pretty good place for spotting ducks, gulls, geese, grebes. You even get bald eagles here. During, mid-spring into fall, you'll get osprey. So lots of really neat birds you can spot here. I got one more place I want to show you. Or Gravelly Point. Here we are along the Potomac. Canada geese up behind us. You sometimes get really big rafts of duck here. It's another good place again for, as I mentioned, at Roach's Run, for geese, grebes, herons, osprey, eagles, lots of neat birds that you might get around here. It's a very popular place. It's actually hard for me to find a spot along the river where I could film because it's really filled with people today. You can also see the planes coming in and out from Reagan. It is located just north of Ronald Reagan National Airport, and you can only access it by going north on GW Parkway. So depending on which way you're coming, you could hit both and turn around at some point to check out both parks. So it's really a neat area, and there can be a lot of waterfowl here. Another spot along North Arlington, north of here, is the Teddy Roosevelt Island. Is a great place to see some ducks. If you don't mind heading a little ways out of Arlington County, I recommend Huntley Meadows or Riverbend Park. Again, there's lots of good places along the river and in some of our wetland protected areas to find some waterfowl. If you want to get out and just look at some ducks for some inspiration, or just get out and enjoy some open space time. All right, I love birding. It's one of my favorite things to do, going looking for birds, and those are two of my favorite spots to go looking for ducks in the area. So I hope that you get a chance to get out and look for some ducks. If not, you get a chance to learn about some or look some up, or if you just make your own, that's fantastic too. Maybe at some point here in the future, you can get down to Gulf Branch Nature Center and say hi. We'd love to have you. I hope you get a chance to visit us. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you again for checking out Rec at Home, which is part of the Community Recreation Division. And I hope you have a great day. Enjoy your duck.